Being in an industry where you have to withstand so much and the pressure comes from all sides, but still calmly just handling it.
I'm not sure about your story, but people had to push me and push me in here until I fell down, and I was like, okay, I'm on the stage now. I'm not gonna make a fool of myself. Let me just talk, and then after that, it just carried on. Whenever they look at an IT person, they think, okay, he sits in one dungeon somewhere, and he shouldn't be talking to anybody because the language he talks is not understandable. Oh, okay, then what do you do? Then I'm like, no, I do cybersecurity. Then they're like, oh, okay, my ex-girlfriend's WhatsApp needs to be hacked. Can you help me with that? I'm like, no, I don't do those kind of things.
We went there with the salesperson to a meeting and we are just trying to technically solve the problem, right? Like we're just trying to make their technology work for them, and the salesperson would be like really upset with us because, we're kind of messing up the deal here.
This firewall can't make coffee for you. And then we will then have a fight with the sales guy. So the sales guy says, no, I need to make money. But now you're being honest. Don't be honest.
Where do you think this is going? The whole AI thing for humans, AI thing for businesses. What are security providers doing?
We know a lot of bad actors are using AI to penetrate environments. And in a similar situation, we're now using AI to defend our customers' networks using AI in the environments.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. So today I'm actually super excited because I am speaking to a long-time colleague and personal friend, Zaheer Ibrahim. So from now on, throughout this episode, he'll be referred to as Z because that's just simply how we know each other. And so Z is a solutions architect at Trend Micro. He is honestly probably one of the most technical and knowledgeable people I know in the cybersecurity industry. We worked together for many years in this industry, and he's such a thought leader. He's earned so much respect in cybersecurity across the Middle East and Africa. Z has changed his role a few times, and honestly, I want to talk about the journey here today, and I want to talk about the transformation of quiet and introvert Z to a being on the stage and being on the news Z, and I want to hear what that journey has been like. So we're going to talk about everything related to his current job, his current life, his family, cloud security, AI, and all the topics that he talks about today. This is Cybersecurity Uncomplicated with Cyber Queen, where we break barriers one chat at a time. No one has the exact roadmap, but together we're challenging stereotypes. We'll show you that cybersecurity is for everyone. We're bold, smart, and unapologetically diverse. So Z, I'm so excited to talk to you. Welcome to the show.
Cool. Thanks, V. I'm so excited to be part of the show. I think even before we just started, I was just making a quick shot at you to say that you traveled halfway across the world before we could do this meetup again. So I'm so excited to do this and to chat to your followers. It's such a privilege to be part of Cyber Queen. And one day, I want to aspire to be Cyber King one day. So maybe we can do a show around that as well. But thanks for having me.
This is amazing. Yeah, I would share the cyber title with you so you can be Cyber King. I would love that. So, Z, how have you been? Firstly, how is the family? I can already see there's family life happening over there. How have you been?
Hey, I've been quite busy. I think this year just started with a quick bang. The kids are growing very quickly. That's why you'll see me sporting a very bright yellow t-shirt. A lot of people ask me why so bright today. Normally, I'm not wearing so bright colors. And then today was the school sports day, and I had to represent the yellow team. So I had to go out and find a yellow t-shirt. I didn't know yellow t-shirts are so hard to find, and when I did find it, it was this bright yellow t-shirt that I could find. So kids are growing up quite quickly. It's a funny thing because whenever I speak about the kids, one of the things that I bring back is the whole cybersecurity story. And maybe 20 years ago, you would never need to cyberproof your house. But all of a sudden, my kids now are trying to go onto YouTube, and I'm trying to block them on YouTube, and then they're trying other ways to get onto YouTube, and then they got phones, and I must secure the phones all of a sudden, and this whole conundrum is coming. So kids are keeping me on my toe, definitely.
I feel you on that one because I have the same issue. I mean, my boy, I think our kids are even similar ages with the two that I have. But so my boy, I have the whole parental control thing going here on their devices. And the other day he said to me, no, but if you limit YouTube, then YouTube music, I can't listen to all the music that I need to listen to. So now, then he found a workaround. Hey, he created, like, he said to me, he's creating a burner Gmail account that he's going to use YouTube music for. I was like, what? No? Red flag?
It's too they're too advanced, and I think I'm gonna become number one hated person in my house. I was speaking to one of the principal at my kid's school, and I was telling them about how I'm locking down the phones and limiting access, and he went to go do it on his kids' phones. So now his daughter doesn't like the fact that I taught him how to lock down the phone. And now he told me, okay, well, why I don't come and speak to the school and speak to all the parents in the school and teach them how to lock down phones, because they're not aware of cyber risk associated with kids and all of those things. So next time we have this podcast, I might be the number one hated person here in my area. So just be careful with that.
But that's amazing. And I think it's in demand, see, with parents, because even, I mean, now I'm in Denmark, and even at our meetings, I like the number one thing that they talk about is the kids with the phones. And like here, just for context, like kids are free roaming, right? Kids go without parents everywhere. It's like a little bit different to South Africa, where parents are probably with the kids all the time. Here, the kids are just free, so they have to have a phone to be able to communicate. And the number one problem is like how do we protect our kids when they are on mobile phones? And so I think that's a super cool initiative. And doesn't it ties into your life right now, a trend in any case, or in a certain way, right? So maybe tell us a little bit about that. Like, what do you do at Trend Micro?
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, I'm part of the solution architecture team at Trend Micro. So, in my role, I handle or assist the Middle East and Africa region, predominantly Africa because I stay in South Africa. So, anything within the Africa landscape is especially my baby to do. And when we're looking at what I do on a day to day perspective, I think customers are always coming first, whether it is helping them in breaches, helping them in security architecture meetings, just giving that guidance and making sure that they understand why cybersecurity is quite important in their organization as well. But then we also go on the flip side, and one of the things that I'm a big advocate for is the ability to do education and making sure that not only educating technical folk, because when we're discussing, like we started this discussion where kids are now needs to be understanding around cybersecurity, the parents need to be understanding about cybersecurity. But even when we move that into the corporate world, we can't only be educating the technical teams. We've now broadened the discussions, and that is where I've taken on that advisor type role, where I'm also advising customers, also from a CFO or chief financial officer perspective, or the managing director, all the other legs within the organization is where we have to do those education. So I'm still a hardcore techie person. I still love my technical stuff. So that is still my day-to-day job, making sure that networks are up and running, making sure firewalls are deployed correctly, even though we don't do the firewalls, but making sure that the security posture is up there. So although I'm 50-50% from a business perspective, I still love my technical stuff. And one day, I think, as we progress with this podcast, I like to take your listeners through my home network and show you what my home network looks like, where I actually hit a limit from my access points that I have to upgrade, because the limit is 100 concurrent connections, and I've already reaching, I think, 70 devices online concurrently at any given time. So that is just in the house. So you know how technified I am at the moment.
Just for context for everyone listening, right? We work together in kind of a technical, or what is it, like sales engineering type role, right? Where we work together. So we were the technical folk going to advise customers on solution architecture and technical implementations and all of that. But we were in that role, we weren't required to be that in-depth technical. But Z over here, you could literally, like, it's literally almost like you were just a step short of opening the box and installing the motherboard yourself of the firewall, like, and the hardware yourself. Like, that's how much it was. Like, you are honestly, like, you love playing with these things, and you're so in-depth technical and in-depth hands-on, even when you were not required to be. So do you think that's been like a big success factor in your career throughout the years in InfoSec cybersecurity?
Yeah, no, no, definitely. So even if I give your listeners a small history of where I came from, and when I started in the industry, I didn't start doing cybersecurity. I started in a generic IT role. And whenever somebody comes to advice and they tell me, okay, I want to do cybersecurity, firstly they try to pick on the wrong person because they're like, oh, you work at home all the time. I want to do what you do because you're at home all the time, or you always on the road, or you're traveling or something like that. And I said, no, no, no. To get there was a journey. And I did my hard work. When I started my career, I started with a normal IT technician type of position, fixing computers, making sure the computer is up and running. I then transitioned into desktop support. Every time a user's printer stopped working, every time their hard drive failed, they couldn't log on to computer, or their mouse stopped working. I might be giving away my age, but for those of you on the call that will remember the mouse with the ball, every time that mouse stopped working, we needed to clean that ball that was under the mouse. So those are the things that I used to start working in the grunt work, and then I slowly matured and I moved into network administrator slash server administrator role, understanding how servers work and then understanding how the network work, and then from there I transitioned into cybersecurity. And I will definitely recommend that you always have that baseline to be able to understand how a network works, how a computer works, just from a basics. Because whether you're installing an antivirus on it, whether you're trying to troubleshoot a firewall in the network, and even going to the extent of understanding how cloud works, the fundamentals of using RAM or using serverless functions, all of that still comes back to my day zero where I was understanding how a computer worked in the first place. So I will definitely recommend looking at how IT technicians operate and then slowly branching off into what you want to do in the future. So, from my technical capabilities, definitely it helps me so much that when I go to a customer meeting or even a partner meeting and I'm talking to the client, and it gives me the ability to shift my understanding where if there's a technical guy in the room, I can then up the tempo to a technical level. And if it's a person in the room, I can then speak the business aspect. And that definitely helped me. And I'll definitely recommend anyone to go that path as well.
That's amazing, Z. How did you, being a technical person, how did you add the business context?
Business process, I think, came naturally, and I think it is part of my tribal history, you can call it. For those of you that are listening in South Africa, you'll know that people of the Indian descent always like to make money somehow in their life. So that's how the business extent came into my life, and I think it progressed over time. And where we worked, and I'll never play down any company that I worked for, and that company that we worked for together, I don't know if we're allowed to mention it, but they're the green guys that made us have green blood. I think those were the guys that actually installed the business processes into me. Similarly, like how you mentioned V, and for those of you maybe that don't know V's history as well, she's very technical minded, and we started. I think it was even before I joined there. I was working with you at my previous company where you were installing firewalls for us and those kind of things. So V is also very technical, and she also transitioned into the solution architecture role. And when I moved from like a pure pre-sales role into solution architecture, I'll be honest, that first month or two, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, you must fill in documents. What is a proposal? I don't know what's a proposal. I
A
was there's only
bomb, a
writing.
bomb,
Oh,
right? That
yeah,
thing.
I was like, what is all of this? And then they're telling me of a SKU. And then I'm like, what does SKU mean? This is like foreign things to me. And that gave me the culture shock. Like that first 2 months, I was like, okay, no, I need to change my way. I can't only have a technical mind. And those were the guys that actually changed my mindset. And that is how I became business oriented as well.
Yeah, I think it's exactly the same for me, and I think we can mention. So it was dimension data, right? So for anyone in South Africa who would know it, we both worked together at Dimension Data. But even before, we have a history of you being in the vendor space, and then I was doing the firewall installations and things at the customer environment as a engineer. But I think it's exactly the same. Like I remember going over to that pre-sales team, and in the first week I was in a tender briefing, and it
Yeah.
was a new language to me. I was like, what are they saying? I don't understand, you know? And for the most part, I think you and I had the same problem, Z, where we went there with the salesperson to a meeting and we are just trying to technically solve the problem, right? Like we're just trying to make their technology work for them. And the salesperson would be like really upset with us because, you know, we're
To make
kind of
money.
messing up
Sell
the
something.
deal here.
Sell something. Sell something. And they always, even in today's world, like whenever I had this pre-sales position, I was always attached to like a salesperson. And you know for a fact, pre-sales and sales or technical sales always bump heads. And every job I had, we've been bumping heads because the sales guy will go and tell the customer that this firewall can go and make coffee for you. And then we have to come into the conversation and say, no, 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 just scroll it back and say, no, this firewall can't make coffee for you. And then we will then have a fight with the sales guy because the sales guy says, no, I need to make money. But now you're being honest. Don't be honest. And I think that transition was also equally big from technical to business is to be able to understand how a salesperson operates. And that was a big change for me as well.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. But now your experience actually spans like a broad spectrum here because you have a distributor, then you have like the systems integrator, and then you have the vendor based experience. So, what has that been like? Like, where do you think you've learned the most and got like what's been your best experience so far?
No, definitely. I think I'm only missing the end user. So I only have a customer to work for now. And then I think I complete the entire cycle and I can give you feedback on all four of them. But each one of them gave me a different perspective on life. I think from a distributor was one of my first positions, and the distributor helped me grasp different technologies. And that was purely from a pre-sales technical and gives me a lot of training perspectives. I got to beef up on education quite a bit from a distributor perspective. When I transitioned into from a distributor to a partner, that was a whole nother world. And the reason being is from a system integrator, what I loved about it was I wasn't only touching it from a cybersecurity perspective. We were touching it from across different verticals, whether we're looking at networking, end user computing, cloud, all of those different verticals I was touching. So there I got to learn different verticals and then also from the business perspective how that worked as well. And now where I am in today's space, I'm at the vendor world. I think I'm going on to about 7 years at the vendor. So I've been here quite a bit. From a vendor perspective, what it has taught me is to be able to have a good understanding of the partner landscape as well as an end user. And that gave me a good percentage breakdown between the both because I get to speak to end users, I get to speak to partners, I get to speak to distributors, and I get to speak to people across the world. And I think that is one of the things that was lacking from the other two positions. Where working for a global company, I get to understand what is happening in other aspects within the global footprint. So somebody is doing a cyber attack within the Denmark landscape. I can speak to someone like you and say, listen, here, V, one of my banking customers are having something happening within the environment. Are you seeing something similar happening there? And that just opened up my mind to be able to understand that cybersecurity or even IT is such a broad spectrum globally that it opened up my ears and my eyes and ears for global success as well.
Amazing. When I think about you, Z, I think that we have been in tough situations. Like, I mean, under pressure, and like, it's almost like drinking from the fire hose. We've been there. But you don't flinch, right? Like, you don't become panicked. You don't become stressed. You just handle it. Like, you just do what you can, and you're like fine with the fact that, like, no, like we can just do this and you execute everything you must, but you don't get stressed. So is this
Yeah.
still the same or has it changed? And is the vendor more stressful than other scenarios that you faced, or what's your experience there?
No, definitely. And that takes me back to a sports story that just happened this morning where my daughter was running a relay race. And in this relay race, the person before her tripped and she fell down. And because she tripped and fell down, they finished last in the race. And then from the stands, we could see that she wasn't feeling too well. She started crying, my daughter. And then I spoke to her and I said, what was the problem? She says, no, I wanted to win and I couldn't win. And I said, no, this is teamwork. And when you talk about teamwork, you just need to understand that sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose, but that's life, and that's how you need to be able to take it. And I think that comes back to your discussion where when we're looking at the type of person I am, and people must understand that V likes to play herself down, but she's identical to me. I think so in a female version where she's so cool and calm and collected that we work well together in that scenario. But even in today's world, when there's even a breach in a customer's environment or in a prospect, and we need to do incident response and help the customer out, I always try to calm the situation down, because if you're going to do a panic, nothing fruitful is going to come out of that panic. You're going to create more harm in your network. You're going to start opening up funny ports in your network or do something that is more harmful to your network. So rather just be calm, cool, calm, and collected, and compose yourself and make sure that you're doing what is right for you and what is right for the company as well. And I think my wife might disagree a little with age. Maybe the temper is getting a little bit worse as time goes by. But I think I'm still cool, calm, and collected, and I'll be able to do those situations, especially when we're in the fire. I think our previous manager Kevin, and I'm sure he's going to listen to this podcast as soon as it goes out. That first week or the second week when I started at Didi, the first thing he told me is, "No, we're not here to like babysit people. We're just going to take you and throw you into the ocean, and you must go and swim." And then I think my answer was, "But what if there's sharks in that water?" And he said, "Then there's sharks. You must swim away from the sharks and you must carry on." And I think that stuck with me, where it keeps you calm. And even if the sharks are swimming in the water, just make sure that you can get to the shore and protect yourself after that.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. And that was only one of the many sayings
Yeah.
that a young Z and a young V were
Yeah.
were exposed to here. Like I think if we have to tell like our history and our story, and actually how young we were at the time when we were in these complex situations and difficult scenarios, it's unbelievable actually when I think back on it. Being in an industry where you have to withstand so much and the pressure comes from all sides, but still calmly just handling it. But I think there also we had good mentors, good leadership. It was a phenomenal place to get exposure and to actually like accelerate our careers for both of us, I think.
No, definitely, and I think that is very important, especially for future cybersecurity or IT in general. People that are listening to this podcast, and one of the important thing is people can make you or break you, and that is very key, especially from a mentorship perspective. I'm sure if I had one person that led me into the wrong direction, it would have been a very different career where I am today. And not only from a dimension data perspective, I was fortunate to have very good managers as I was going through right till today where I am, where the managers are there to grow me into the right position and push me into where I need to be. And I think that is mine and your downfall, especially from an introvert perspective, where we were scared to do things like this, to actually talk on a podcast or go onto a stage, go onto TV, etc. And the only way, I'm not sure about your story, but people had to push me and push me in here until I fell down, and I was like, okay, I'm on the stage now. I'm not going to make a fool of myself. Let me just talk. And then after that, it just carried on. And I'm sure something similar happened to you, where someone put you into this position and you were like, I don't want to do it. Let me try to get out of it. Let me make excuses. And then the excuses ran dry, and you had no excuses left and you had to do it. And I think once you break that fear, that is how we were able to go into where we are today.
Yeah, I fully, exactly the same for me. Exactly. I mean, for me, it was more personal. It was more like my husband, he was pushing me. He's like, you're a unicorn in your space. You should be talking about this. Like, it should be a thing. And I think I avoided it for an entire year
Yeah.
before I was like, okay, fine, let me, like, I'll start by writing something. And now it's this, right? Like, it's grown so much. Like, now it's this. And I get to speak on, like, at conferences, I get to speak everywhere. But I mean, this is exactly it. Many people who are watching and listening, they are introverted and they don't know how to build a network in this industry, and they don't know how to put themselves out there and how to just communicate to get themselves known in the industry, right? So what would you say to someone like that, as like a reformed cybersecurity introvert now speaking out there?
And I think we must first take out that not cliche. I think cliche might be the wrong word, but whenever they look at an IT person, they think, okay, he sits in one dungeon somewhere and he shouldn't be talking to anybody because the language he talks is not understandable.
Yeah, it's the stereotype.
The stereotype, 100%, the stereotype. That stereotype still sits with me because when I don't know if can you hear that? I think the microphone.
The birds outside?
Yeah, for those that are listening from outside South Africa, I think that is even classified as a South African bird because whether you want to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, they're there to wake you up. So we refer to them as Hadidas here in South Africa. So when we're talking about the introverted part, and even when I go to family members or they come to my house and they find out, okay, what do you do? I say, no, I'm in IT. First thing they say, okay, my TV at home is not working properly or my fridge is not working properly. When you get time, can you come by? I said, no, anything that has a plug doesn't mean that I can fix it. I don't know how to fix those kind of things. Then they say, oh, okay, then what do you do? Then I'm like, no, I do cybersecurity. Then they're like, oh, okay, my ex-girlfriend's WhatsApp needs to be hacked. Can you help me with that? I'm like, no, I don't do those kind of things. And then now I just give up. I just say I'm in IT. When they ask me what I'm doing, I just say no, I'm in IT. And then if you're really interested, I'll take it to the next level. But when we're talking about socializing in a corporate space, I think to be able to break that stigma of moving out from an introvert perspective and not going full extrovert per se and going on stages and those kind of things, but just putting yourself out there and growing your network. One of the things that I've learned was because of the stereotype of who IT people are, try to go out to conferences where there are only IT people. And that was a big changer because when I went to not was it last year? I think went last year to an IT conference, and it was nice to be able to see like-minded people sitting there where nobody was selling anything, nobody was trying to give you free giveaways or anything like that. It was a pure play cybersecurity event where we were just talking about cybersecurity. I wasn't trying to pitch you a product. No one was trying to sell me a product. No one was bad mouthing anything. It was just a nice place to be. And that helped a lot where we started communicating. And because I've been in the industry quite a while, it was nice to see guys coming from colleges, guys coming from campuses, and they were asking those questions. Okay, what do you do? And when you're telling them cybersecurity or IT, they're not asking you to fix a fridge. They're actually having a conversation with you. And that is how those new generation is actually growing their networks, where they now went straight while I was standing there, they were adding me on LinkedIn. And I was like, okay, that's quite cool that you're showing some initiative and want to grow your network. And it was actually quite funny that when I was at my distributor job, I actually trained somebody on a product back in the day called Blue Coat. I think I even trained you back in
Yes,
the
you
day
did. You did.
on Blue Coat. And it was nice to see that on LinkedIn he changed jobs a couple of times, and now he's head of cybersecurity for one of the companies in South Africa. And I was like, it was so nice to see that someone was quite young not too long ago and they progressed through the ranks where they socialize, they added new networks and they've moved up. So my advice would be, if you are introverted, try going out to small meetups, making sure that you get to meet like-minded people, and then from there it will just grow and then you'll automatically become not full extroverted. I don't want you to go on big stages speaking to 10,000 people, but it will help you to go put yourself out there as well.
That's actually a great tip. And I didn't think about it that way because also you might find so many people at those like small meetups or IT specific conferences are the same, right? They're also introvert. They're also afraid to speak to the next person. So that's actually important. One fun fact for you, Z, just one fun
Yeah.
fact for you. In Europe, I'm an extrovert, hey. Do you know that? Like in South Africa, like
Yeah.
I was back home in December for a
Yeah.
short little bit visiting the family and all of that. Then I realized I'm the quiet introvert one, that needs to follow the other person around, otherwise I can't socialize.
Yeah.
Here, people are so introverted that I'm the extrovert. Like
Oh,
I brag all the time. I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
do you know that I'm the loudest person here? Like, please.
Oh.
Um,
But it just shows the maturity of where you came from because I'll do some storytelling on V now because I remember at times when we needed to go do big presentations or anything. But and this was very early days of DD when I was there, and I would say, "Oh, V doesn't want to go on the stage, or she doesn't want to go here." And then we always had the two mentors, Kevin or Tommy or Ross, and then she'll slowly loop them in, and I say, "No, what's happening here? Why are they getting looped into this?" And then I figured out, no, she doesn't want to go talk to those people, so now she's bringing in the big guns to be able to talk to them. And then you fast forward a couple of years, and then I realized, okay, look at how times has changed, where she's now going onto the stage in that. So this is
Yeah.
my small cybersecurity engineer. You can see but
Hello.
short. Yeah, let's say hello to the people. Hello, hello.
Hello. How are you?
For the mama coming now.
Oh,
So you can see, I think even for your guys on the call, I think this is where work life balance hits the spot where you can see my daughter's just gone to play with the toys now, and this is my work desk. This is where I'm going to be doing my work tomorrow when I log in, and that's quite nice where we came from even pre-COVID to where we are today.
yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think that's so important for me now. Like, if we talk about the work life balance thing, even like it's a non negotiable, right? Like, even when I moved to Denmark, it was like, it was such a big opportunity. And of course, like, then moving halfway across the world, but it was still something that I was not willing to give up. It's like, I must have my flexibility when I need
Yeah.
my flexibility for the family. Today, I left work in the afternoon because tomorrow my daughter has a dress up day. So she wanted to get a costume and choose her own costume. And so I had to take her there to do that. And that's so important. But I don't think that's the norm for everyone in
Yeah.
security, right? How is it in South Africa? Is it more common, or do you think it's a company based thing? What do you think?
I think it's a company based thing, and then it also comes down to a manager based thing and how their thinking is. When you're going to more old school thinking, a lot of managers will still want to be able to see you and make sure that you're doing your work and do all of those things. And then if you look at the new type of managers out there, we're seeing them as more flexible and they're more deliverable focused. They don't care how the deliverable is met, whether you're going to take your daughter shopping for clothes. As long as my deliverable is met, you can work 1 hour a day. I'm not bothered in that. I think it makes a big difference in today's lifestyle, how fast paced everything is. And you know very well, South African traffic is horrendous, and it just gets worse every year. And that 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, I don't want to sit in that traffic because I'm losing 4 hours of productivity. When we're looking at how the companies are adopting, and I think from a global perspective, when you're looking at the big guys like Amazon or X or all of these guys, and most of them are now being told to go back to the office. When we're looking at how that progresses downstream to us here, is it depends on the company culture. Do they want you? And what I'm seeing from a lot of customers, because most of my meetings are still being done by remote software, and it just shows that maybe 50% are still working from home and they don't want to be met in the office. And that is the shift that we're still seeing, where hybrid work, and me personally, I think you also, hybrid should stay. There still needs to be that physical interaction where I need to go and talk to my colleagues. I need to brainstorm with them. I need to be able to discuss things. And it helps me quite a bit where I go 2-3 times a week to the office, where I'm sitting there and I got my like minded people with me, and I got something that I want to run through. And I can't just phone him on Zoom, phone him on Teams. It doesn't give me that same impact where I can just look over my shoulder and say, hey, I'm trying to do this in a customer's environment. What's your thought? And then somebody else will also pull in and say, no, why don't you try this? And that helps a lot, where we still have that physical interaction with our peers.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think like there's nothing matched also like a office workspace for a junior person,
Yeah.
because I see that with a lot of the juniors in my team, where when I do eventually come into the office like that one day or 2 days in a week, when I get there, it's almost like, like, okay, now is the time. Okay, so I have this thing, I have this thing, and they just have the freedom to
They're
ask
hungry.
versus,
And
yeah, they're
they're
hungry
hungry.
for knowledge. They want to learn, and they just have the freedom to ask versus if I'm at home, they have to like set up the time, and then they have to plan it out, versus when they are dealing with the problem right there, they can just ask. And then also like listening to other people speak, they can hear talks in the corridors about projects being discussed or solutions being discussed, and they can then ask questions. So I think if it's a more junior type role, and especially a technical, very technical junior type role, I think the ambition should be to go into some type of workspace where you have other people that's like you there in that workspace, because then you can learn. I think this is how we learned the most, and then we
That's it.
would practice on our own, but we learned the most. We even challenged each other with like certifying and like, when are you doing that one? When am I doing that one? Like, okay, like V's
Yeah.
got that one, okay, Z's got that one. Like, it's this whole culture challenging thing is a big deal in security, right?
And also, if we go back to the earlier discussion we had about building your network, what's the easiest way to build your network? You're going to be in the office. You're going to see other vendors, partners, other people, engineers walking around, and then you're just going to stand up, start talking. That network is just going to grow and grow. You never know that V is my equal today. We're working side by side, but tomorrow she's a manager at another company, and then I want a job at that company. Now I know somebody there, and that was what me being in the office, chatting to you, understanding, and maybe another thing that your listeners will like to hear, and I always reference this in majority of my customer meetings or my sales meetings especially. And one of the discussions we always have is, I always try to make the salesperson a little bit more technical, to be able to understand what is happening out there in the world. And they'll always push back and say, but that's your job. Why do I need to be technical? And then I always throw back and I tell them, I know a millennial that was a security manager for an insurance place here in South Africa. And I was referencing you. And then they'll say, okay, what's the meaning for that? And I'll say, okay, all of us are millennials today. Okay, are we millennials? And the problem with us millennials is, when we want something, we want it now, and we got no patience to be able to wait. And I'll always reference you, and I'll say, you remember V, when we went to go meet her that once, and we were chatting to her, and she asked some technical-ish questions to the salesperson, and if you can't answer, she's going to be put off because she's a millennial. She wants an answer yesterday. And now you're going to say, okay, let me phone Z. Let me go and try to set up a meeting with him. And then we waste another 3 weeks trying to set up a meeting. And I always reference you in that discussion to say that in today's world, everybody's fast paced and they want things today. And that comes back to the office discussion, where you want to ask somebody something. Now, oh, V is working at home. Now I need to go and schedule a meeting in a calendar and see if she's okay to meet me at this time. And having that hybrid model where I can just tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, V, I got this problem with this customer. Can you help me with this? And it just helps that interaction as well.
Yeah, I fully agree. I fully agree. So, Z, what do you think for people who are starting in the industry now, right? Because I mean, both of us, I think it's so similar actually. Like, both of us started into some type of just normal computer building, then computer support, like desktop support, then sysadmin, then into security, right? Like, just fumbled our way there.
Yeah.
And then when we got there, we like certified a lot and we got educated and we had like different opportunities. But for someone starting now, they're starting into like this whole world of cybersecurity, right? And what do you think is the most prominent jobs that's available for them right now, or a space where a newbie can actually start from if they want to go straight into security?
No, definitely. And where I'm seeing, so the hunger globally is still there. We always hear the statistics of how many cybersecurity positions are open globally. There's a shortage of skills globally. And even in South Africa, and I'm sure in your region within the Europe perspective, that shortage is still growing. There's a lot of openings that are coming up, and there's a lot of ambition to be able to make sure that the right people are going into there. And when we're looking at it, and I'll always come back to making sure that the grassroots are there. When you're looking at going into the cybersecurity world, make sure that you have the IT baseline sorted, understanding how computers work, understand how networking works, because everything cyber always comes back to how an OS works or how a network works, the basics. So if you understand the basics, it will just make your life quite easy to be able to understand what needs to be done on that aspect as well. And then as time has progressed and we've seen this sudden boom of cloud coming up, we're looking at AI. And when we're talking about AI, it was quite funny where I was with a customer not too long ago, and we were experiencing some network problems on the core switches. And when I was looking at his PC, he was on ChatGPT, asking ChatGPT that I got this error. What must I do to fix this error? And I'll admit that as well. When we were starting, Google was our end all. Whenever we had a problem, people thought that hey, our brains would explode because we got so much knowledge. No, my brain was on Google. Hey, this firewall is not booting up. What must I do to fix it? And that is where we started. And with the cloud booming, AI booming, I still see a lot of opportunity in the whole DevOps space, and understanding how development works, how to make cloud work as well. And now you start merging these two or three worlds together, where we start talking about DevSecOps, we start adding security on top of this, and now we got AI, where people think that okay, AI is going to take my job, AI is going to do this, but we still need somebody to watch the AI. And security also needs to be embedded in that whole AI mindset as well, and that is very important. So where I see growth, especially from newbies that are starting, looking at cloud, looking at DevOps, and looking at AI, and then merging these three roles into one is very important as well.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective. And there is like a lot of focus on the cloud stuff and shift left. I mean, I look even for me with the like my sole focus right now is global enterprise cloud, right? That's
Yeah.
my sole focus. And where the biggest thing couple of years ago, or even like let's say under 2 years ago, was like like the run of cloud. Like now things have been lifted and shifted into cloud and it's been deployed, and now how do we go and secure it? How do we put policies in place, monitoring, logging, all those things? But now like my focus has shifted to where like how do we build it securely, to the whole DevOps, the
Yeah.
securing the developer operations, and then the shift left component is almost the biggest component of cloud security today. And a lot of people actually don't understand that from developer backgrounds to go into security, that's like to have like software engineering skills or a developer background, that's like a gift to the security community. It's like, please pivot
100%.
into this. Like, we want you to do it. Come
in,
along.
in the same breath, when you asked about how did I transition, or how did we transition from technical to business, I feel now and then I think you in the same boat, where they tell you okay, open up this cloud console and go and look at the code that is in there. And then the first time you open it and you're looking at code and you're like, what does this have to do with security? I don't know anything. What is happening here? And then you're like, the guys that are doing DevOps day in, day out, writing programs, writing code, looking at dots and commas and all of that on a daily basis, for them to transition into a cyber role would just be helpful, not only for them, but for us as well, that haven't had that background. And it will just make it such a good synergy to be able to do DevSecOps as well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And then you have offensive security certifications, right? Like you have your CEH and that. Do you think that that is critical for success of a technical professional in this field?
Yeah. So it's a success on your personal level, because when it's bragging rights for my wife, because when she goes out and they ask her, what does your husband do, and then she say he's a certified ethical hacker, and they're like, oh, he hacks people day to day. I say, hey, stop using those terminologies. It's giving you bragging rights, and then they think that I can hack their girlfriends WhatsApps and all of that. So rather cool down with it. But on a corporate or more business related, it definitely helps, because from an offensive security perspective, the easiest way to defend a network is to be able to have the mindset of an attacker and understand how the attacker is going to come into the network. And that has definitely helped me, where we were looking at tools like Metasploit, and your viewers can always just Google these terminologies like Metasploit or vulnerability data and those kind of things. When we were looking at this back in the day, we didn't understand how did this affect us from a defender perspective. And for those of you that are listening to this podcast, you'll hear things like red teaming, blue teaming, purple teaming. And what that means is blue teaming is always showing the defensive, understanding how to defend the network. Then you got the red teaming, where that is playing out the attacker's role that comes into the network. And the purple teaming is the middle ground to make sure that both the blue and red team are initiating the attacks and defending it correctly. That helped me a lot to be able to understand from a red team perspective how the attacker is going to think, how he's going to try to phish my users, how he's going to try to penetrate my firewall. And that gave me the understanding of how I can better defend my network if I know how the attacker is going to talk in those networks as well. So definitely offensive security certifications are the way to go as well.
Amazing. So, Z, what do you think are the biggest changes right now in the threat landscape, considering AI, considering like consumer adoption of AI rather, right? Because
Yeah.
like AI has been a thing.
Yeah.
Technical people has known that AI is there, machine learning is there, it's being built, all those things. But consumer access to AI has probably shifted the threat landscape significantly. So what do you think about the current threat landscape versus what we faced a couple of years back?
No, definitely, and I think two things play a lot there, and the one thing that I always like to explain is the tech surface that has grown exponentially over the last 2 or 3 years, and I like to when I do my presentations, I like to bring it back to COVID time when we used to go into a boardroom, like just when lockdown was finished, we go into a boardroom. All of a sudden there's somebody sanitizing the desk, they're trying to sanitize you, they try to sanitize the pen, everything in that room. And think about the tech surface the same way, where you go into your network, you got servers, you got devices, now you got cloud, now you got software as a service growing, then you got your users bringing mobile devices, then they bring in their personal devices, and that is just growing that attack surface a lot. And I think that is one of the big things that is growing, where we got too many blind spots and we don't understand what needs to be done in the network, and the tech surface needs to be protected. And then from an AI and the adoption of AI, especially from a consumer level, where we now have to put security controls to be able to monitor what are they actually putting into AI, because they're asking AI so malicious content, where you can go to AI and ask it, give me a malicious code to unload the AV on my machine. And then it will tell you first that, okay, I can't give you that because it's a security precaution. But the end users are getting so more intelligent that they now know how to word the question to make it seem that AI will still give them what they're asking for. And we need to maybe make sure that the education level is quite high, where we need to be able to make sure that when we're discussing these topics, that AI and AI security goes hand in hand, where not only from an AI asking ChatGPT what you need to do, but even poisoning AI. And I'm seeing a big thing where when you log into a banking website, or you log into any commercial website, there's a small bot that pops up, and you start chatting to this bot. And we're trying to make sure that from an educational level, you need to have some understanding that that bot is actually who you're talking to from a company perspective. Because if you go there and put in your ID number, your banking details, or whatever inside that small chatbot, you don't know that that chatbot could be poisoned and they're stealing your data at the end of the day. So education, I think, is quite key. Education, I don't think, is ever going to go away, where we're educating people and understanding the new terminologies out there, where myself and yourself, we're technical minded, so we can understand it. But the layman on the street is not going to understand that I'm talking to an AI chatbot and I don't know what the AI chatbot is actually doing. So I think education is quite key.
Yeah, agree. Now I want to ask you, Z, where do you think this is going? The whole AI thing for humans, AI thing for businesses, and what do you think? Like, I mean, what are security providers doing? What's Trend Micro doing to try and get ahead of this and try and advance?
I think even when I was speaking in Angola 2 3 weeks ago, when I started it, I said, okay, let me just get this out of the way and let me just mention the word AI before somebody tells me that I haven't mentioned the word AI, because AI is mentioned all over the show nowadays. So I just started off the presentation with saying the word AI and said, okay, I got it out of my system. Now we can discuss what we need to discuss. AI has been mentioning all over the show, and it's not only from I installed my product. I made sure that my product is secure from an AI perspective, machine learning, everything is protected. But AI also helps us to be able to investigate alerts much faster in today's terminologies, where we had ChatGPT from a consumer level, but now we got our own ChatGPT in the SecOps world, where we can now go and speak to this generative AI and ask it question. What was the top 10 attacks in the last week in my environment? And generative AI will then pull out the data and it will tell me, okay, you had ransomware on two machines. Hopefully you don't, but you have two ransomware attacks happening in your environment. And it helps you be able to speed up, and it helps you do two things, which is the MTTD and MTTR. And for those of you that are delving into the world of cybersecurity, one thing you need to learn is we create acronyms every week. We're going to teach you a new acronym. And MTTD stands.
Every week, Brad. Like we have a list every week.
I even make jokes when I do presentations. I have to tell them this is EDR, this is XDR, this is what this stands for. Okay, now you got the distinction in the acronyms. But what AI actually helping us do from a SecOps world is mean time to detect, is to be able to reduce that and make sure that when we're looking at attackers in our environment, I can reduce the time to be able to detect an attacker in my environment. And that is where generative AI has especially helped us speed up that thought process. But from a defense perspective, because AI or all large language models are so big and it's easy to be able to be accessed, what we're doing at Trend is to be able to build our platform from an AI perspective. And when you go back to your question and asking about offensive security, we know a lot of bad actors are using AI to penetrate environments. And in a similar situation, we're now using AI to defend our customers' networks using AI in the environments. Whether you're looking at generative AI, looking at very large language models on the back end, or even trying to predict using AI to predict attacks that might hit your network in the future, where we start talking about AI prediction from a cybersecurity world. And that always helps us in that extent where we're ingesting AI into the core of our platforms as well.
And I think that's important because as a customer, I can tell you that we look to our vendors to like, what are you doing about AI? Are you going to enable AI into your platform so that we know firstly, like that you've taken care of all the governance, the compliance, the responsible AI duties. And now we can leverage, like sell it to us as a service, as part of your service, like license your technology with our AI enabled, and then we have advanced capabilities, but you've taken care of the underlying thing. So I think that's actually like the next concept that's coming here is like SaaS type of AI, where we just consume it and it's already been taken care of by whoever the vendor is.
No, definitely. And even if you bring it back down to a consumer level and you look at your mobile phones, whether you're using Apple or you're using Android or whatever you're using, and you're seeing now new phones coming out and AI is baked into the phone, where you try to switch on something on the phone and it will then tell you, okay, this is a premium AI feature. Do you want to now subscribe to it? And that takes us back to software as a service to be able to understand that now, even from a mobile perspective, we now have AI built into it, and we now can subscribe to it. Let the Apples, let the Googles do all the heavy lifting, but we can then just subscribe to it, pay a small $1, $2 a month fee or whatever, and we can then subscribe and ingest that data as well. And even if you take it into the future, where this might go, and if you're looking at how cars are operating today, if you go and buy a BMW or Mercedes today, it has its own software as a service marketplace per se. You want heated seats, you now need to subscribe to it. And now you go into your Mercedes and you say, hello, Mercedes. That is some sort of AI built into that car as well. That's starting to learn how you're driving, how you're doing all of those kind of things. So AI, I think, is going to become a big thing, not only from a cybersecurity world, but from a general IT perspective as well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And in enterprises, we're seeing the rise of like an AI center of excellence. You know, like a couple of years ago, it was a cloud center of excellence. Now we have that, like there's people in there. Now it's an AI center of excellence that's like in the plans in the future coming up. And in there are going to be like security specialists for AI, you know, and like technology data professionals for AI as an example in the enterprise. So this is a cool thing for people to look into when they're just starting on the journey or even trying to pivot, is like, how do you add AI skills and knowledge to your existing skill level?
No, definitely.
So, Betsy, how do you know what's going on in this industry? Because a lot of people struggle with staying on top of what is
Mhm.
going on in cybersecurity, but we know that in the industry, we consume information by the bulk. But for you specifically, how do you know what's going on in the industry?
I think for those of you that are on or know about cybersecurity, and you know something we refer to as threat feeds, where you absorb threat feeds into a security operation center. I think our brains are like our own security operation center, and we need to sit and absorb this every day. When you logging onto your PC, and I think it was you that gave me a link. I think when we were at DD days, there was a link that used to always sign in the morning, and it used to give you like a news of what's happening in the last 24 hours. I similarly absorbed the same thing. I think LinkedIn has become a news place for me as well, where every morning I wake up, I first go into LinkedIn, and I'll be able to see, okay, what has been, or I follow a lot of pages, and I'll be able to see, okay, what has been trending in the last 24 hours. And I think the best place where I was able to absorb data on a daily perspective, and today is Reddit. I've been subscribing to Reddit channels left, right, and center. And the thing that I like about Reddit is it's everyday people. It's me and you experiencing outages or experiencing a new threat that comes out, and I absorb that into my day to day life, and I'll be able to read up more about it. Something will trigger me on Reddit. I will then go and read up more about it, and I think that is where it helps a lot to be able to understand what's happening in the industry. And I think I'm quite fortunate to be in a vendor space because I work for a global vendor. It just helps to be able to have people in a global perspective and understand, okay, I'm seeing this type of attack happening in Europe, and I can then speak to my peers in Europe, and tell them, is this type of attack. And technology has helped us adopt that I can share to someone in another country, where we're doing this podcast, where you're in Denmark, I'm in South Africa, and that has helped us to be able to make sure that we get that information installed in us as well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And so now I want to ask you, because I just thought of this now. You are in the vendor space and you see a lot of things. I mean, a lot of people, like a lot of us, like in enterprise, I'm going to my business stakeholders, right? And I'm talking about like protection against, or like we have to remediate these core vulnerabilities because this is the tech vector and it can ultimately lead to ransomware and blah, blah, blah. So can you tell us, without sharing any information that you shouldn't, but can
Yeah.
you tell us like what type of crazy things you've actually seen? And when people talk about ransomware or even just a basic phishing email causing a disaster, like is
Yeah.
that the reality or are they exaggerating here?
Yeah, no. It's definitely the reality, and touch wood. If anybody is at the end user that's listening to this, I don't want ransomware to be anywhere in your network. Where I was actually presenting last week Monday to a board of CIOs, and when I was chatting to them, the first question I asked was, "Have any of you experienced a ransomware attack?" And I think two or three of them put their hand up, and I asked them, "How fun was it when when you were doing the instant response?" And they just shook their head and they put their head down. And I said, it's not a fun place to be when you're in a ransomware attack, and you know that someone is in my network and they're running havoc in my network, and I got nothing to do. I can't stop them. And especially that example you use, that when we're doing education and you're telling the board that I got these 10 vulnerabilities that then could lead to the next attack vector, that are compromised credentials and so forth. And then the end game could be ransomware in my network. And we've been in so many instant responses where basic hygiene of the network wasn't taken care of, that then led to a bigger ransomware attack that came into the environment. things like unmanaged agents. You got a server, and that talks back to the tech surface where someone decided to spin up a server. They didn't tell anybody that any security policies need to be applied to the specific server, and then 2 years later the server is breached, and you don't know that the server existed in the first place. That is very key, especially when we're doing IR into a network, to be able to understand what is happening in that network. And many sleepless nights. I think it was 2 years ago where myself and my colleague, we pulled an all nighter. It was a Friday where we started incident response about 3 in the afternoon, and we only logged off 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning just to get that network back up. And it's not a fun place to be. So IR is not fun, but it has to be done.
I agree. I agree. In the moment, it's such a rush and it's such a like, and you just focus. You can spend the whole night. Like I remember with the big bank in South Africa with the incident that I was involved in there. That was an entire weekend, right? It was like a weekend going like full steam. And in the in the time of the incident, you don't really feel it and you're just working, like you're just trying to get it up and you're just trying to firstly recover, and then you're gonna, basically analyze what happened and do the whole post
And
incident response.
that's where we hear terminologies like a war room. I think that was the first time I heard
Yes.
someone tell me go to a war room, and I was like, "What is a war room? What's going to happen? I'm scared to go into this room. Is there people that's angry there? That's why they want to fight with me because it's an incident or what it is." And I went to learn what a war room meant.
Yes, I agree. I agree. For me, it was at the bank. It was go to the war room. It's like, what?
Yeah, I'm not going in there. There's people that's going to want to shout me in that room. I'm not going to that war room.
Super fun. But I think it takes passion, right? Like really to thrive in this space, I think it takes passion. Like you're gonna learn so much. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of things that up until today we don't know. We
Yeah.
discover new things like all the time, and there's so much to learn. Would you say that in South Africa, especially, there are still a lot of opportunities for people who come from university, like internships and things like that, to get into this industry?
No, definitely. I think there is so much opportunity. Even if you go on to LinkedIn and you do a quick search, you'll see there's so many internships happening. There's so many level one. I think that's a whole different discussion when someone asks for a level one engineer, but the engineer must have a SISP degree and all of those kind of things. But that's a whole nother discussion we can have. But there is lots of opportunities for level one engineers to come into the space. And I think it's quite a unique situation in cybersecurity where even where I am in my career perspective, I'm pre-sales. Technically it's just another word, solution architect, but it's pre-sales at the end of the day. And if you look at what you're doing, you're at an end user doing something completely different to what I'm doing. And then when you're looking at it, you got network security, cloud security, identity security, and there's such a big array of different opportunities that new guys can take, where they can then dive into it and say, okay, I did my IT degree and I'm very interested in networks. Okay, then go dive deeper into network security. And even in South Africa, where you're looking at normal firewall engineers or SIM engineers and so forth, there's a lot of opportunity. And I think that space is just going to grow. And the reason why it's going to grow, and it's a bit of a cliche where they tell you cybersecurity is no more a technical problem, it's now a board level problem. And it's quite accurate because now CFOs and managing directors are now CEOs are also seeing the value of security. And what happens is it creates a ricochet down to the bottom end where new opportunities are opening. And I want my environment to be secure. So I'm going to go now hire a new level one engineering team because I want them to make sure that level one is taken care of. So definitely there's lots of opportunity coming up.
I agree. And I think that gives a lot of hope for people because I get a lot of those questions and comments on the industry in South Africa, the landscape in South Africa, and what it looks like. So I think that will be super helpful. Now I have a random question for you, Z. What if it wasn't IT and security? What career would you have then?
I think that's one of the most difficult questions. I think so because the way I got into IT in the first place was by mistake. there was a college that came to my high school, and they came there and they said, this is the IT that we're offering. Or they took me out for coffee. And now to take someone that's out in matric out for coffee, it was all a business. And I felt all nice about myself because I got to go out on a coffee date in a guy with a suit and everything. And then I brought all this information back home. And then I left it there. I said, no, this is quite a bit of money. I don't think I want to burden my father with all of this money. And I just left the papers there. And then my sister seen it and she said, no, why are you going and looking at our competition? So I said, what do you mean your competition? And then she says, no, her husband owns an IT college. And I said, oh, that's quite interesting. And then he says, why don't you just come there and you just come do a short course with us? And then you can see if you want to enjoy it. And that is how it actually created my desire for IT. If I take it on the other side, if I wasn't in IT, maybe I'll be managing Manchester United because they're doing such a horrible job at the moment. I could be doing a better job managing the team. But I think from a personal level, I always have a passion for cars, and I always love to do something with a car related. So most probably I'll go and I would have ventured into maybe mechanical kind of stuff, and then most probably going into dealerships or trying to modify cars. Again, we got a heritage of Indians in us where we like to modify cars and make sure that the cars are souped up and all of those kind of things. So most probably I would have gone into the motor industry. But maybe
Yeah.
maybe let me reverse that and ask you the exact same question.
You know what? Before I give you the answer, I just want to say that these are the debates when you are involved. Man United, which by the way, I agree with you. You can do a better job right now. You guys are in pain. Man United, a car situation, right? And then technical things
Okay.
like V. Did you set up the checkpoint firewall this weekend? Which, by the way, I'm sitting in my office here, and
Yeah.
like just as I look across here, I still have the small little orange checkpoint,
Oh, you
like
still with the aerials.
memento device with
Yeah.
the aerials. It's here, and sometimes I put it into the network as like just like I just want to create an AP because I want to
Yeah.
test things via that AP, but I mean
Yeah.
it can't get any updates or anything. But I still have it here because like we were in the business of securing our homes, our home
Yeah.
networks, you and I.
You have to. You have
But
to.
those were the debates, the three things for you:
Yeah.
cars, Man United, technical things. For me, I think, and just because I asked this question, I've had to think about it. But I agree with you, it's not easy because the passion for tech and security like runs from like getting out of school. I knew I want to build computers or do IT things, but I think it would have been a lawyer, and
Okay.
more specifically, just IT law, like IT law, cybersecurity law, like that type of law, not like a lawyer that goes to court or something like that. No,
Yeah.
like still
Correct.
like corporate, but information technology related things. Yeah.
And off topic, I think I'm one of the few people that didn't watch Suits, and I started watching Suits. I think last year, and I'm binging Suits and I'm enjoying it. So maybe that law thing will grab me as well.
Yeah, and I think it's even from there. I think it's even from there that I was like super interested in
Does it
the
does
law
it have
thing.
not does it not have anything to do with the way Harvey Specter looks? Or
No.
oh, okay, just checking.
It's more about Mike.
Oh, is it
Yeah.
Mike? You're the second person in 3 days that told me that Mike is the one for them and not Harvey.
Yeah, no, more about Mike. Um,
Oh, Mike.
the final one here for the audience that want to, like, I know you're not kind of big out there on socials or anything like that, but for anyone who wants to get into contact with you, I presume it's LinkedIn, but can you let people know how do they get into contact with you?
Yeah. So they can just go onto LinkedIn. I am on X or Twitter. I don't know what's the name going to change to tomorrow, but I am on there. But I hardly post on Twitter. But if you want to give me a follow on LinkedIn. You can just search for my name, Zaheer Ibrahim, or even just put Trend Micro next to it. It will come up. I regularly post cybersecurity related features, not only Trend Micro topics, but even general IT security stuff. So if you want to link up with me, just follow me on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. Z,
Cool.
this has been absolutely incredible. And I actually can't wait to share this episode because it's been a lot of fun and you've exposed a lot about me here. I have to tell you.
Definitely. I hope I'm going to be invited for the second episode, a continuation of this.
We'd have to. We have to. I'm sure the
I
audience
got
will
more
demand
stories. I
it.
got more stories for your audience. Don't worry.
Now they're going to demand it.
We, we,
Yeah.
we also we also had a white Renault once upon a time, so I'll just leave that there. We got stories around that as well, so we'll keep it. You'll keep you in suspense for that one.
This might be dangerous. It might be dangerous, Z. Thank you so so much. And yeah, we'll be back for the next episode.
Definitely. Thanks for the listeners listening in as well.
This is Cybersecurity Uncomplicated, and I'm your host, Cyber Queen.